This is so extra. Hi everyone, my name is Alex. I've heard a lot of people talking about switching up their routine for the summertime, and I'm someone who has also talked about it, but with this video, I wanted to share some of the thought processes that went behind what I personally do to switch up my skincare routine this summer. The biggest thing I want to emphasize with this video is, first of all, it's important to listen to your skin. These are personally things that work well for me as someone who has combination acne-prone skin, but some people stay dry all year round. Some people are more oily in the summer and more dry in the winter, which is around the line that I fall under. I've also heard of people being oily all year round. Going into this video, I wanted to share some of my current thought processes just from things I've noticed during the summer that have helped improve the appearance of my skin and also just helped my skin overall feel better during the summertime. I'm sharing things that I personally do and also things that I feel like would be helpful for different skin concerns and types during the summer. Another thing I want to point out is a lot of my skincare routine changes very frequently, as you could imagine. But another factor that I take into consideration, which I will touch on a little bit later in this video, is what I'm doing during the week. I've recently gotten into planning out my week, and though I can't plan for everything, I still like to be as prepared as possible and plan ahead with my skincare routine. Like I said, I will talk about that later, but that does have a huge factor in, no matter what season it is, what I do with my skincare routine and how I change it up. I am going to be providing some product recommendations in this video, but mostly what I wanted to do was share my thought process and maybe give you a tip that may improve your skincare routine as well. I am going to be doing a full summer breakdown of my skincare routine within the next month, so make sure you are staying tuned to that. That video will be more product focused, while this one is more just my mindset and what I think of when deciding what I'm going to do for a summer skincare routine. That perfectly segues us into the first tip, which is using less actives and being more mindful when I am using actives. For instance, if I know I'm going to have a lot of sun exposure the next day, especially if I'm not as consistent or thorough with sunscreen application, I will hold off on the active. The summertime does usually mean spending more time outside and being more exposed to the sun, and so with that being said, I do still use actives, but I do generally switch to more gentle alternatives. With using more gentle products, it really helps combat any irritation I will experience from the sun, and also I don't use this product during the day, specifically on the days that I am going to have a lot of sun exposure. I also try to avoid using it the night before as well. I try to be as thorough as possible with sunscreen application, but I mean, it can be difficult to reapply sunscreen. So my tip with actives is to just be very mindful. Try to plan out what you're going to be doing the next day. If you are doing something outdoors or going to be outside for an extended period of time, then maybe don't go in with an active the night before or the day of doing that. That is something that specifically in the summertime I really try to be mindful of and has really helped my skin significantly. This one seems a little bit more obvious, but I want to explain more of my thought process behind switching moisturizers in the summertime. That is what I feel like a lot of people go to when they're thinking about switching products, is a moisturizer. In the winter, I love to use a really rich cream. Something I noticed, which I will touch on later, is if I use a lot of rich moisturizers in the summer, my skin will get extremely greasy, especially in my T-zone, and I'll notice a lot of acne coming up on my skin. Moisturizers for the winter often break me out in the summer because they are too rich for my skin during the summertime. I prefer to go for more hydrating gel cream in the summer than typical rich, nourishing moisturizers that I would go for in the winter. There are some times where I will apply a gel cream in the morning that is more lightweight, that will get me through the day, and then a richer moisturizer at night if I do feel really dry. Since I have combination skin, it is difficult for that. Another tip I want to share specifically for combination skin types is applying a different moisturizer to different parts of my face. My T-zone gets very oily, so I typically go for a gel cream both day and night for that area of my face, but the outer perimeter of my face, specifically around my chin, because I do shave, I often find getting really dry. Recently, I've gotten extremely dry around my chin area. What I will do is sometimes apply two moisturizers. During the day, I will often go in with just a gel cream in my T-zone, and then if I'm feeling really dry that day, I will sometimes slug just around this area. It is just something that I've had to normalize with combination combination skin is that I do have to apply 2 moisturizers sometimes because a gel cream may not be nourishing enough for my dry areas if I am more dry that day. And sometimes throughout the day, I do like to carry a richer moisturizer if I do get dry around this area. Applying 2 moisturizers has just kind of become the normal for me. And if you have combination skin, don't be afraid to apply different moisturizers in different parts of your face. I do notice in the summertime though, to prevent getting excess acne, it usually is best to go in with a gel cream specifically on my more oily areas. Kind of on the same page of using 2 different moisturizers, I found that I do cleanse my skin more often throughout the day. One of my tips is to go in with a really light, nourishing cleanser during the daytime if you do need to cleanse twice a day. That is something that's been great for my combination skin. You can obviously go in with a more purifying cleanser both day and night if you're extremely oily. And when I say more purifying, I don't mean stripping, I just mean a more effective cleanse. Some people need that. I personally found that with my combination skin, I like to go in with a more hydrating cleanser during the day, and then at night, I like to go in with a more purifying cleanser. That is something I specifically do in the summer, is incorporate a more purifying cleanser at night. But specifically this summer, I have been doing 2 different cleansers, using a more hydrating cleanser during the day, and then using a more purifying cleanser at night, especially if I've been sweating and been outside a lot during the day. It is my favorite way to just unwind. I like a more purifying cleanser at night, especially because I am oily in my T-zone. And then, like I said, I will follow up that with the moisturizer that I feel like best suits my skin at the time of cleansing. All of this really depends on how my skin feels day to day, but that is just something that I think about when I am thinking about cleansing for the summertime. Next, I want to talk about a perfecting skin product. When I am leaning towards a makeup product, I typically tend to go for a skin tint or a light serum like foundation. I don't like to pile it on during the summer because I found that the less layers of product I apply on my skin, the better off I am. That is something I've changed up in the summertime. In the winter, I did like to layer products, especially if they were more nourishing or hydrating. In the summer, I just like to go for a light gel cream moisturizer, a base layer of sunscreen, and then I will either go for a light skin tint or a light tinted sunscreen. I will provide some options in my skincare routine video, but the thought process there is because I've also experienced a lot of acne coming up on my skin whenever I have built up a lot of product and have a lot of layers on my skin. It's not fun both for my acne prone skin and also for how my skin feels throughout the day. Just feels suffocating. In my opinion, it's best to just go for a very light skin tint or a tinted sunscreen. I do still like to go in with a base layer of sunscreen. Just make sure if you are layering sunscreens that there aren't any interactions. I'd recommend just looking that up. I've done research about encapsulated zinc sunscreens. Those are the best if you are going to be layering sunscreens, but still be very careful with that. I'm not an expert whatsoever. I would definitely recommend doing your own research. I usually like to go in with just a base layer of sunscreen and then a skin tint on top of that once the sunscreen has dried down. While we're talking about sunscreens, I do also want to bring up, it may be good to go for a more mattifying sunscreen, specifically if you are more oily. I have been a huge hater of mattifying sunscreens in the past, but I do like a more mattifying sunscreen, especially in my T-zone. It's not necessarily something that I would go for because I do like to apply sunscreen all over my face evenly, and my dry areas can't usually handle a more mattifying sunscreen. What I have found is that I like to go for a very lightweight sunscreen during the summer that doesn't even feel like it's there and doesn't really add much moisturization to my skin. If you are oily all over, don't be afraid to go for a mattifying sunscreen. I've seen Korean, mineral, and American chemical options on the market that are amazing. If you want a more mattifying sunscreen video, please let me know, but it may be a good option to go in with a more mattifying sunscreen if you are more oily. On top of the sunscreen conversation, I also want to say it is important to accommodate what you're doing that day. I know in the summer, a lot of people go to the pool, they go to the beach, or you could be outside a lot and be sweating. I always make sure to go for a water-resistant sunscreen whenever I know I'm going to be outside, specifically on my face, my body, and it's good to be mindful of what you're doing so you can use a water-resistant sunscreen if it is necessary. I've used some sunscreens before and I will sweat them off if they're not water-resistant. Specifically tinted sunscreens I've seen to almost like melt off my face. I will see it happen sometimes, so just be mindful of what you're doing. That is the biggest takeaway that I have learned from my skincare routine this summer, is to go for a water-resistant sunscreen when it would be most beneficial, especially if you're by the pool. I feel like that is often thought about more. With sweating, I have recently noticed that I need to be very persistent with water-resistant sunscreen, which has helped my skin a lot. I also want to talk about reapplying sunscreen because it is very important, kind of like I said earlier with actives. A stick sunscreen is the way to go in my opinion when reapplying sunscreen. Just make sure you are going for one that is a little bit more lightweight. You can also go for a more mattifying sunscreen as well. Stick formulas I found can be a little bit thick on the skin, so just make sure you are rubbing them in. But I found it is the most convenient way to reapply sunscreen, especially when I'm out. So I did want to provide that because I find myself reapplying sunscreen so much more often in the summer. This tip is the main one that inspired this video, and is actually something I just noticed with my skin. I have been an avid lover of snail mucin and hydrating products, and I noticed that layering products like snail mucin on top of like a hydrating serum or a more nourishing serum works great for me in the winter because I am more dry. When it is the summertime, I recently experimented and stopped including snail mucin in my day-to-day routine and found that my skin was doing better in the summer off of that product. So my major takeaway from it, because snail mucin is mainly used for the hydrating benefits, is to not overdo it this summer, especially if you are acne prone. A more simple routine has worked better for me. It's good to go for more lightweight products and still incorporating some hydrating products, but not going overboard with them. There are some serums like snail mucin that just belong in my winter routine, or if I'm feeling more dry at nighttime, I may go in with this. But during the day, I don't really see a need for it, and if my skin doesn't feel overly dry, I haven't been applying that product, and it has been helping me significantly. If you are more acne prone, I wouldn't recommend going in with too many overly hydrating products, especially because it is the summer. I am more combination. I don't know if that's true for drier skin types with acne, but I do know that as someone who is more oily in my T-zone, I was experiencing more breakouts when I would layer way too many hydrating products. The final tip that I have kind of goes along with what I just said. Don't throw away your winter products. I am big about not wasting skincare. If I'm not able to use a product, I will give it to a friend or someone I think the product will suit better. But don't throw away your winter skincare products. If you know of someone who wants to use it, then that's great. You can donate it to them and not waste the product. The biggest thing that I've noticed with skincare products is that if it's too heavy for my face, I can often use it on my neck, on my body, somewhere else, or give it to someone else if I just don't like the product. But I noticed that that's the best way to not waste your winter products, because let's be honest, by the time winter comes back around, your products may be separated, they may be expired. If you're not continuing to use your skincare products, then things can happen to them, especially if you did open them and summer just kind of snuck up on you. That happened with a lot of moisturizers for me. So I'll use it as a neck cream, I'll use it as a hand cream. I'll find some way to use the product so I'm not wasting it. You can use a cleanser that's too moisturizing for your skin on your body. There are just endless amounts of ways to use products when you're not able to use them on your face. And so that is my biggest tip for still continuing to use up my winter products in the summer. Please let me know how you switch up your skincare routine season to season in the comments, and also make sure you are subscribed and following me, because will be posting my full summer routine and how I am putting these principles into action with my summer skincare routine. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more like this, make sure you subscribe because I post new videos every week, and I will see you all in the next review.